and get learning. I feel like I have nothing but dad jokes, which is sad because I'm only 22, but that's okay. I think dad jokes are fun for everyone. But okay, welcome everybody to the May Cando Youth Connect. This is an amazing opportunity, and just you coming in to this virtual space is so great. Because what this is about is it's a platform for Indigenous youth 18 to 35 and allies, of course, across Turtle Island to participate virtually to discuss topics such as economic development, lands management, entrepreneurship, etc. This is kind of a new initiative for Cando, and so it's definitely an exciting one, and we're always learning and growing and evolving as we move forward, and that's why we're so thankful to have you here in the early days of this platform. But here's kind of where we have an opportunity to share details on events in different regions, resources, tips, strategies, anything like that, and kind of just connect with our peers, especially when we're so far apart. And of course, there's all those cons to being online because we can't see each other, but there's a lot of pros for the fact that we can just gather like this once a month and discuss topics that are important to us or we find interest in. And so always great to see you here. Some of you might be wondering, who is this crazy lady talking to me through the screen right now? I don't know why, but I always forget to introduce myself. But my name is Aubrey-Anne Laliberte-Pewapisconias, and I am the National Student Director for Cando. I'm currently in my second term in the role with the Board of Directors, and all I can say is it's absolutely amazing. Cando is one big family. And once you join the family, you are open to all these opportunities, these connections that you can make, and this network of people who are always there to support you. It's truly amazing, and that's why we can come together to do things like this. And so welcome, welcome, welcome again. I am joining you from Treaty 6 territory and homeland of the Métis, just outside of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, on an acreage. And so that's why my Wi-Fi gets a little bit spotty sometimes. So don't be scared to call me out. But I know Thomas, Dustin, and Sydney will pick up my slack if anything happens today. But we do have, when you attend these, we have prizes, as you may have seen. And so you can get those prizes by filling out our evaluation form that you're sent after the actual Cando Youth Connect. But I do just want to walk you through the different prizes that you'll get because they are all from Indigenous vendors and entrepreneurs. And so welcome. And when you fill out your evaluation form, you can be entered to win an $100 gift card and a sweater to Nietzsche Gear. So that's Kendall Netmaker. And then you can also win a Indigenous box, which is an entrepreneur that we actually had on our most previous Cando Youth Connect. And then you'll also be entered to win a $100 Cheekbone Beauty gift card and a $100 She Native gift card. All of these are amazing prizes. And so get your evaluations in after the event. And that's also just your way. Like I said, we're new, we're evolving. And so any feedback at this point is great feedback. And we thank you for the time that you put into those as well. And so welcome everyone. I can see that chat filled up a little bit. I can see everyone from Ontario, BC, I'm from Saskatchewan, Alberta. So we kind of got a little bit of everywhere here. So I like it. But without further ado, I promise I'll get started. I try not to ramble in these, but things happen, but don't be scared to call me out. But definitely there is a reactions button at the bottom of your screen you'll see, and that's where you can do a clapping hands, a thumbs up, a heart, a laugh, a celebration. And so you can press those at any point in this time. And that's just kind of our way of like letting each other know. And of course, throughout this, you'll also get a chance to speak on your own when we go into our conversations with the broader group. But without further ado, I am going to welcome our amazing panelists we have with us today. And so today we are talking about economic development. And so I'm happy to welcome here Dustin Fiddler, who is a band counselor from Waterhen First Nation. You can see him there, just waved. We also have with us Sydney Paul, who is an economic development officer with Eel Ground First Nation. If you want to give a wave, Sydney. Welcome. And then also we have with us Thomas Benjoe, who is the president and CEO of FHQ Developments and a member of Muscowpetung First Nation, Saskatchewan. So welcome, Thomas, as well. So yes, big welcomes to everybody. Feel free to write in the chat if you ever have questions for them as well. And if they pop up and you're scared to lose them, just put them in the chat and we'll be sure to get to them. But to kind of get into, like I said, meat and potatoes, I'm going to start off with this first question. And the question that I think burned in my brain when we welcomed you to the Cando Youth Connect is, how would you describe the role of an economic development officer? Because I think for so many of us, maybe it's not something that's as common for us to hear, or we're in a different field. And so for you, how would you describe that? Let's start this off with Thomas.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Aubrey. Yeah, so I guess in terms of the economic development role, in our organization, we have three different divisions. So we have investments and partnerships, we have an ECDev division, and then we have sort of an HR. But as it relates to economic development, so the real value proposition that we're trying to develop there in that role is to try to build a more sustainable Indigenous business ecosystem. So that's essentially what the economic development officers do. They're trying to build this ecosystem to create success in how we engage in business. And that's from a nation perspective in terms of them, a nation creating a new business and looking at aspects around, employment, reinvestment, community investment. They take a look at a lot of different factors in terms of what wealth will look like for the community. And then from the individual perspective, we have to be able to support our entrepreneurs, our citizens from our communities. And so in that ecosystem, when we're building big business, and this is what we do at FHQ Developments, we're building large corporations and then giving opportunity to our nations, but also giving opportunity to our citizens. And so they can benefit from subcontracting efforts that we may have in place so that we can help their businesses grow. But amongst all of that as well, and I know next week is Economic Development Week here in Saskatchewan. We'll have some announcements from our team, but it's really important from an economic development perspective to build resources and tools so that the barriers and processes that we go through to try to create successful businesses are not that scary, right? That we have the supports in place to be able to be successful. So I think that's really the job of an economic development officer, is to really find those resources and tools to make things a lot easier, but also build relationships in the community to be able to make that a more successful effort.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Thomas, for that. I like the way that you tie in everything, that it's a big picture role, of course, and it's not just about the business, it's about everything that kind of surrounds it as well. So thank you so much for that answer. And Sydney, how about for yourself? How would you describe the role of an economic development officer?
So my role is a little different. So I'm the EDO for the community. So what we do is it's very busy, it's very diverse. I'm like almost like a one-person show. So it's basically whatever the community needs are. So we kind of focus a lot on building a strong, like what Thomas said, so like building a strong like economy for the community, right? And one of those things is creating those partnerships, identifying different funding agencies, trying to build up on community own source revenue, and basically just trying to figure out what the community wants and needs, right? Just because, like me as a business minded person, it may not fit for what the community sees as a whole for growth. So keeping those in mind, and kind of it's kind of like social, political, economical, all tied into one position. So it's not just business driven, that we have to keep in mind. So that's basically what kind of, I guess, to add on, because Thomas did touch on a lot of with the position itself.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for that, Sydney. And it's nice to take a look into what exactly you're doing as well. And so thank you for that. And then last but not least, Dustin, how would you describe the role of an economic development officer?
Councilor Kakyo Natoaganeg. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, I guess. I see some people from BC. I'll quickly get into this, and introductions are all there by Aubrey and Wade, so we're good. I would like to say with the position, it's really good that for everybody here today, you can hear from Thomas and Sydney and myself, because I feel like it's different perspectives you're getting with Thomas. He's working with nations, he's working on with FHQ developments, who's working on some massive projects, and Sydney Paul's the EDO with her community, and myself, you're bringing in kind of the politics of that to get that stuff moving at a nation level when you come in. When I started with Waterhen Lake First Nation, we had no economic development plan. We had basically some papers that a consultant did how many years ago, and we had no EDO. We had no dedicated staff for economic development. And I knew that the most important thing we needed was some accountability and some hierarchy, some structure, because you can't just run your businesses where chief and council is the go-to for all, right? Your store has a problem, there's an inventory issue. Maybe there's some double bookings with your tourism and your resort. You got to wait till the next chief and council meeting to do that. That's not efficient. It's not the way to do business. So the importance of getting that person in there who gets all of that information from the businesses, the reports of what needs to be done, the action items, setting up meetings, all of this stuff, that is to me the EDO. It is really, like Sydney said, it's everything, especially when you're starting up, when you don't have a lot of supports. You could come in one day and you have a meeting in Edmonton, then you got to rush back to Saskatoon and then rush somewhere else just to get all this stuff going, right? That's of course pre-COVID times. You could probably zoom that all now in a day, but I think that it is one of the most important positions for the First Nation to get moving into that self-sufficiency, right? That socio-economic well-being of your community, where you want your families working, you want your people to be taken care of, and to me, it's one of the most important things is you want to make that economy your own. For many decades, our First Nations, we've been just pouring out money, giving it to every other non-Indigenous business, non-Indigenous organizations. It's been bleeding out. And now we're getting to a point in this last decade where, because of the work of EDOs and leadership working together to make that goal, we're actually creating businesses, construction businesses. I know that Kakawista, how they just have a steel fabrication business they just bought. There's many businesses where we're starting to pay ourselves versus First Nations, and that work wouldn't be possible without EDOs and leadership coming together. So it's a pretty important role.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Dustin. And yeah, I completely agree. It's so great to see all of these Indigenous businesses popping up and seeing how we can all work together and support one another in this process of business. And so just kind of maybe to shift into the next question here. When I was little, I wanted to be a doctor and I didn't know what economic development was. Needless to say, I didn't become a doctor, but that's okay. I think that for us, like maybe when you're little, like you're not hearing economic development all the time. And so for you three, how did you start your career in economic development? And let's switch this up and start with Dustin this time.
Yeah, so I went to, I guess, same thing. I don't think any of us, maybe a select few, but for myself, at least growing up, I wasn't thinking about economic development of my nation or anything like that. I was concerned with, what young people are concerned with. And it was when I got into university and I started working, it was at University of British Columbia, Okanagan. That's why I love Kelowna and I love West Bank. That's where I stayed. And so when I was out there, you start seeing all these success stories from all these First Nations at that time. This is 10 years ago for me now. That was, we were looking at a lot at Membertou. We were looking at Tsawwassen. We were looking at Osoyoos was a big one at the time. Then Whitecap was getting big in the game, like pretty big at that time. You start looking at all these First Nations and all these Indigenous businesses and coming together and starting to create that success. And you ask yourself, I think for myself at least, where I got involved was I said, why isn't my First Nation doing some of this stuff? How come I'm not seeing my First Nation involved with these businesses? When I see joint ventures or partnerships and they list the First Nations who are part of the project, I never saw my First Nation on any of those lists, and we were never in any of the talk with business. That's where my interest started into economic development. Was I looked at all of these other successful First Nations, the groundwork was laid for a lot of the stuff they've done. And that was really beneficial, is that I didn't have to think very hard. I could kind of look at a First Nation and see, okay, what was their model of success for their First Nation? How can I take the good parts of that, bring that up to my First Nation in Northern Saskatchewan? And when I was elected in the council, I was 25, and I came running with those ideas. I came just with a slate of what I wanted to see our First Nations start getting involved with, because we had missed opportunities. By that point, when I was elected, there was so many projects going on in Saskatchewan. That was in 2016, and Saskatchewan missed the boat on so many of them. I remember there was a newly opened casino in Lloydminster, and Waterhen, my First Nation, had been given the opportunity to be a part of that, and they turned it down. And I said, "Are you kidding me? Like, if you look at the success of the gaming industry in Saskatchewan, for us to turn down an opportunity because we didn't have the capacity when they invited us to be a part of it, we had to start changing that." And that's my whole interest. That's how I got started into it. And now we're at a point where, after this call, I think me and my chief and a few other councillors, we're actually going to go meet at a big investment opportunity idea. And we've come a long way where we're starting to get invited to these meetings. We're starting to bankroll some stuff, and we have the dedicated staff and the dev corp set up. So it's been a road, but that's where it all started. It was just saying, how come my nation doesn't have this? How do I bring it here? What can we do?
Amazing. That's so great. Thank you for that, Dustin. And it's good to hear about how your passion was driven behind bringing it back to your community and bringing it home and creating a space where you could thrive. I love that. That's really amazing. And then how about for you, Sydney? How did you start your career as an economic development officer?
So I attended university and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I attended a First Nation Youth Business Summit in my first year university, and I helped volunteer there. And that's where I kind of got to know more about business. And that kind of helped me gear towards going into the business program at my University of New Brunswick. So that started from there. And then I volunteered a lot with the youth. And that's where I kind of realized too that you need a lot of money to invest in a lot of social programs in the community. And that's where I kind of got that ideology of like having a strong economy makes a healthy community. So that's where I kind of started with that. And just like Dustin said, is not seeing a lot of opportunities in the community, and not a lot of like band-owned businesses or proper structure in regards to economic development. So that's where I kind of started, exploring to see how I can get into my community and work with my community. And then I graduated from the university, and then actually a position popped up for EDO. And I'm actually from Kingsclear, so it's a Wolastoqey community. And I actually work in Mi'kmaq territory now, but that's where I started. So I applied for the position there, and then kind of where I am today.
Amazing. Yeah, that's great. And I like the way that you kind of like found yourself into that role, and now you're thriving and doing what you feel passionate about. That's amazing. And then, of course, again, last but not least, Thomas, how about you? How did you find yourself in economic development?
I started off at a young age. I picked up a magazine actually in high school, and seen a very successful Indigenous CEO on the cover and said, I want to be that guy. And so that kind of, laid the foundation for me. I've always been a bit of an entrepreneur growing up. I've, had to work many different jobs and didn't get an allowance. So had to earn every penny we had. So, being able to have that background and learning from many different organizations, learning about their structure, I always tried to really understand why their businesses were a success, and that also moved into decisions around post-secondary, which was First Nations University of Canada, went through their business program, took Indigenous business courses and helped develop First Nations governance courses as well. So that helped with my experience, and all at the same time running in student politics and doing actually doing consulting on the side. I was managing very, very large projects on my own through my own consulting throughout university, and eventually, going through that process, had the opportunity to work many different career opportunities, and actually chose banking because I felt that was really important for me to understand the banking world, credit, risk, investments, so that I can learn all of that, learn corporate structure, and bring that back to our nations. And so I always had the goal to becoming a CEO, and didn't expect it to happen so soon. I did become CEO when I was 30 for the Dev Corp. But my heart is here. This is my passion. So I wake up every day bright and early at 5 a.m. to do this work. And there is no weekends. There's no limit to what we have in front of us. And so I'm quite passionate about being able to grow business and make sure that our nations are getting fair opportunity. And right now we have 12 businesses that we manage as a Dev Corp, and we have another 7 more businesses in the pipeline that we're putting together that will become part of our portfolio. So we're just going to continue moving forward on just developing more and more of those opportunities for our communities and diversifying, so that we know that our youth coming up will have future opportunities with us. So that's what's super exciting about being in this type of role.
Amazing. I like how you said you looked at a magazine cover and you're like, I want to be that. I like that. You speak it and work it into existence and it'll happen. And when you said that, I saw it resonate with a few people who had their cameras on, and it's just a very touching moment, I think, to see that you worked hard to get to exactly where you wanted to be. And so again, I welcome you to turn on your camera if you feel comfortable doing so. But I think something I want to touch on next is that I was speaking with some of our board members the other day in one of our meetings, and one of our great board members, she said that sometimes being an economic developer, it comes with so many moving parts, and you're taking meetings as late as 10 p.m. and you're waking up early at like 5 a.m. to get things done. And sometimes it can feel like a bit of a thankless job, but one that matters and is close to her heart. And I thought that was so inspiring to hear from her, to hear her say that, because I know that she does so much. And so I guess kind of what I want to ask next is all 3 of you can unmute yourselves, and let's make this next question kind of conversational, because we're all friends here at the end of the day. We're all working towards a common goal. And so I think like what motivates you, and let's just kind of like bounce off of each other, like what motivates you in economic development when you're doing those long hours and sometimes maybe things don't always go your way.
I guess for myself, it's just like what Dustin touched on. I mean, you look at the opportunity that's at hand, and any major project that's happening, any new investment that's being made, I want to make sure that we're a part of it. And for a lot of the major projects within our territory throughout southern Saskatchewan, one of our businesses is participating in those opportunities, and by participating, we're also giving opportunity for others to be employed and be able to build some livelihood around those opportunities. And so being very aware, advocating and helping to create new policies and changing policy. I was just sworn in as the chair of the Saskatchewan Chamber of Commerce this week. So I get to lead the business community in Saskatchewan, but I also get to have the opportunity to change mindsets and change policies that are going to affect future Indigenous business in Saskatchewan. So those things are very, very exciting for me. And then, that's why I wake up every day to, take advantage of those opportunities we have in our market.
I don't need to. I like that you said that. But of course, we're Indigenous. We talk. We like to talk. Let's get this conversation flowing. I think that the nice thing about being online, and also the hard thing, is that we're always scared to cut each other off a little bit. But feel free to just jump in, panelists. I think all of us want to hear what you have to say, and let's just kind of bounce off each other, like I said.
Yeah, it's the delay thing, right? You start talking, somebody else starts talking, and then you're both saying go ahead for like a minute. But I think really quickly on myself with moving us forward, as Indigenous people, is I tell my colleagues this all the time. Especially when we're dealing with people that have egos and they want to take credit for everything. It's like, let them go ahead. I'm not in this for my own accolades. Obviously, you come into panels and you do presentations and whatnot, and it's a part of the whole thing. You have to list stuff you've done, but I honestly, I could care less for that stuff on paper that I've done or that I've worked on or whatever, because ultimately my end goal is that long after I'm gone, or when I'm out of the game, when I'm an old elder here, that these changes are still benefiting people. That's why I do it. I could care less if it's credited to me, but if people are living a better life, like my people, especially my community or Indigenous people overall, are living a better future, then that's like all I need. You don't need to give me anything else other than that. That's why I do it. And like I said, I'm glad that I have a couple colleagues I work with in my First Nation who have that same mindset. Is we'll do the work. It's thankless. We're gonna get a lot of flack. We're gonna disrupt some systems and things that benefit people under the current system. We got to change that up. They're not gonna like it, but it's a necessary change. And if we have to be the person that takes the lashes on it, then it is what it is, right? It's like we say in Cree, we say "kiam," right? Is let it be. And so that's my big thing. That's my take on it. And last note on that is I look at where we are today, right? We're young Indigenous people that have a progressive mindset, and we want to see a better future. I think we are here today because of the people who came before us, right? And we can look back in the history books and we can see John Drever, John Tatusis. We can see all these guys, Walter Dieter from Saskatchewan, at least I'm talking in Saskatchewan, but you can go further than that. A lot of the reason we're here today is because of their hard work they've done for decades before we were even on this earth. And that's what I kind of want to keep that going.
Exactly. No, I like that. And I like that you say Kiam, because I got a sweatshirt recently and it's like keep calm and Kiam. And so definitely something that I think people are keeping in mind more often. And Sydney, how about you? Like, what motivates you?
Sorry, my partner came in. I find this job to be very humbling, I guess, because like what Dustin said is there's people that are going to take credit, but then there's like us behind the scenes that are like the doers. So I am not the person to be in the light of like the spotlight. I like to kind of do stuff in the behind. So I like to see like a lot of the key motivators for me in this position is seeing the end product and seeing the community take pride and having those leadership talk about projects that I kind of worked on and pushed, and building those relationships with the provincial and federal government, along with like the municipalities. I find those to be really rewarding. And job creation too, like having a lot of our membership working, because a lot of my positions like in the community, so I see it at the ground level, like what I work on. So that's pretty much like that's what kind of pushes me. And I like that you said about the 5 a.m. and then the 10 p.m. and stuff. It's kind of like you're just working long hours just to try to get a project done. And I really like hearing the different perspectives from Thomas and Dustin, from a band council and from a corporation, which I probably would want to reach out to you, Thomas, because we're actually doing one. We're in the process of creating a corporation here for our community. So yeah, I like this part. I like networking as well. So
Yeah, networking is definitely, it's always a good time. But thank you all for speaking on your motivators. It's definitely good to hear that all three of you are there for the right reasons and to better our Indigenous communities. I can't say how appreciative I am to hear leaders doing that all around Canada. But don't worry. I know everyone came here to kind of, chat in a group. We're going to get there. We'll get your vocal cords moving soon. And feel free to kind of get those questions in your head to all of our attendees, because we are going to move into kind of our general discussions very soon here. And so as you get that ready, I'll ask one more question before we open the floor to everybody. But for our three panelists, there's so many success stories I know across Canada of Indigenous nations that are doing amazing work around them. So kind of what's a success story, and maybe I know we're storytellers, but I guess in a short version from all of you, what is a success story from your community or organization in economic development that you can share to really inspire everyone here today? And let's start this one off with Thomas.
Oh, awesome. There's a lot of different things that we've been a part of as an organization, and one of the probably the most frustrating things when I initially came in as CEO, I had a discussion with the main procurement team for the government of Saskatchewan. And in those discussions, I was there to push for opportunity, to try to, create more contracting opportunities for our companies. But one of the really interesting comments that I was given in that meeting was, we don't do anything for any special interest groups. That was a comment that was made back to me, and that fired me up, and it still fires me up in terms of the work that we do. And, to combat that, I had to make sure that they recognize that, explain to them that we're not special interest groups, we're rights holders to the land. And, our nations go far beyond just our treaty territories. I mean, our traditional territories are vast and go beyond Saskatchewan. So had to spend some time educating them there. That then turned into an opportunity at some of the other events to call them out. We actually had a political forum and had a lot of the heads of government at that event. And one thing I pointed out to the room was, where are all our Indigenous people in this room? This is the business community and government procurement. And there was only 3 of us, and they were all from our company. I said, where are we? And I said, 2. I said, you don't believe in, I was told that we're just seen as a special interest group to government procurement. And, they quickly had to, position themselves in such a way to not embarrass themselves. But what happened after that was an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to have a much deeper discussion behind closed doors, so that we didn't embarrass them too much. But we had some very open and honest conversations about what their comment meant to us as a company, and then to us as a people. And, we educated them, and, 4.5 years later, I look at all of the work that we've been doing with all the crown corporations in Saskatchewan, and even in the private sector, and now government procurement. We've actually changed the government procurement policies to include more Indigenous business. Our work is not done, but the just to see the change in attitude and the change in conversation has been vast. And, you know, we just, in those little acts of you know, standing up to a system, you know, I could see the benefits for our nations being very, very significant in this province, because the amount of spending that's going to happen with our nations going forward, now that we have a better understanding of each other, is only going to create further opportunities. So, you know, that comment always stays in the back of my mind whenever I get frustrated, whenever I'm dealing with a tough situation or a tough negotiation. I think about that. And I think about, you know, what do these organizations think of us? And that only fires me up to want to, you know, spend more time with them and educate them so that they soon become allies of ours, and, you know, can help us advance our interests a lot quicker. So thanks.
And then how about for you, Sydney? What's in a short version so that hopefully we can get to some open floor questions. What's a success story from your community?
So I was a part of bringing in money to expand our gaming, because we were just in a small room. So I brought in, the project was overall like over $1 million. So I was able to bring in and secure funding to move our current location up to a more public area. So that's pretty much it. But that was my previous position, and where I just started this position here in the community. I'm hoping that I'll have more success stories.
Wow. Yes. Thank you. And Dustin, how about yourself?
So in our region, this isn't just Waterhen. If you look at it, our MLTC, Metal Lake Tribal Council, RDI, just got this project going in the last few years for a bioenergy center. So we're using biomass, we're using the waste left over from forestry product to create power. And that is a huge project. Canada, out of their renewable and clean investment energy that they funded, I think they gave us a big chunk of change to get that going, because they wanted to start working on that sustainability aspect in our region. And so that, being a part of that, one of the 9 nations, Waterhen is one of the 9 nations of the tribal council, part of that. It's a huge success story because it's a big project and it's going the way of our values. We want to be more sustainable. We want to be more focused on renewables. And then, yeah, no, quickly on Thomas's point there with the special interest group, right? It's like you talk to these guys, and this is for any of you out there who are, you know, going to be a First Nations person or Indigenous person talking to these companies. Just tell me another special interest group, right? You take all of that money that flows through our First Nations and Indigenous businesses, and you put that somewhere else. See how quick they keep on calling us a special interest group, right? Because you think about all of the I guess the economic impacts and benefits that the province, in our region in Saskatchewan at least, the huge project managers, architects, all these designers, all these things that our people were still building that capacity in the business side of it. So it does go out to Saskatchewan. And I always, it's one of those things when you see the comments online, oh, you guys get all of our money, you guys are all this taxpayer money, all this hateful, racist comments. And it's like, you can, our audits now as First Nations are online. Take a look and see how much was out, like flowed right through into your towns, into your cities. Look at that. We're propping up your population centers as First Nations. So don't give me that. You know, if anything, give us more. You'll be happy. You'll be upset, but your business's bottom line will be happier.
Exactly. No, exactly. Okay, well, with that, I think we're going to move into just general overall discussions. We're just going to stay in this group. I think we have a healthy number to gauge some conversation. Of course, don't be shy. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, of course. But I am going to encourage, if you feel comfortable, to turn on your camera and let's kind of get into a conversation for the last 15 minutes with everybody. Like, feel free to ask our panelists any questions. And what I really am going to encourage you to do, if you don't have your camera on, or if you do, the Youth Connect is about obviously making connections. And so what I encourage everyone to do is, if you just go into the chat and drop maybe your LinkedIn or your email address or something, and then let's kind of create those connections there. So people can drop in your links for anything you want, and let's make some friends. I know at the last one, I made friends with a girl who's a makeup artist, and I loved it. It's so cool, and like that's the point of it. And we're on opposite sides of the country, but that's okay. It's a virtual friendship for now. So feel free to drop your material into the chat, and then we can kind of make some friends here. But with that, maybe let's open it up and see if anyone has questions or just stories yourself. Like, tell you if you feel comfortable just talking about yourself or how you resonated with this presentation, feel free. Emily, I saw you unmute if you want to go.
Yes, I do have a question. To introduce myself, my name is Emily McKinney. I am a Treaty 1 Youth Counselor, founder of Anishinaabe-Bemishmo Corporation, the only manufacturing and cold business in North America. And newly, I'm the Economic Development Officer of Treaty 1 Development Corporations, with our most recent project, former Kapiang Barrack, Nawe Odina Center of Heart. It is the largest urban reserve in Canada. So I live a busy life, full-time everything, work every day, and I love it. I do have a couple questions. One, Sydney, you attended a First Nation Business Youth Summit. What university is that from, and who ran it? Just trying to get contacts.
So the University of New Brunswick hosted it, and it was driven through the Mi'kmaq Wolastoqey Center. That's what they're called now, but I think it was called Mi'kmaq Maliseet Institute at the time. So they did that to try to get the youth up and go in business and entrepreneurship and all that, to try to see if they try to get kids starting their own business. But that was back in when I was in university, so it was about 10 years ago.
Okay. I do have another question. We're still quite a ways ahead from putting shovel into the ground and starting construction with the former Kapiang Barrack. So what I'm trying to do right now as an economic development officer is try to promote youth into economic development, entrepreneurship, business development, all of that good stuff. And my question is, how would you promote and include youth in economic development?
Is that directed to me?
Everyone.
Oh, well, I can start first. I work a lot with our post-secondary. So trying to build those relationships with the post-secondary and the education director to try to get into the schools to talk about different projects that are coming up, along with trying to engage them. So that's basically how I try to drive that. And then I work with the local youth groups, I guess, that have a group of kids to try to present any way I can present on business and try to draw the interest. That's what I have done in the past.
Yeah, I think for us at the DevCorp, we have students consistently working for us all throughout the year. So there's pretty consistent internships right now. We have 3 amazing students working for us right now. And I think the big difference that we have as an organization is, our students aren't here to do filing. That's everybody, well, we're paperless anyways, but we make sure that our students are given very good opportunities, and we actually, have them lead projects when they work for us. So, they spend the first couple of weeks just sort of orienting and getting used to the organization and our systems. But the expectation here is you're going to manage projects, and we expect you to be leaders in your roles. And, we've seen a lot of our students really develop over the years with us, and become leaders in their own rights. And, you know, our expectation and why we put so much pressure on them is that we want them to become leaders in our companies. And, you know, there's a place here for them eventually in, you know, one of our companies or even in the DevCorp itself. And so it's some of that outreach, but we also invest a lot in youth initiatives. So whether that's youth entrepreneurship, STEM events, or STEM training, we look at arts and culture and language and sports. So all of those things, a lot of our investment happens with youth. And even from a scholarship perspective, we fill a gap in the community where not a lot of scholarships are made available for Indigenous women in the trades. So we put about $25,000 a year towards Indigenous women in the trades because we want them to work for us. We want them to help diversify the type of staff we have in our organization. So that's, you know, helping to hopefully create more interest and you know, doing things like this is about creating brand awareness about who we are as a dev corp, and hopefully inspire some interest to wanting to work for either us or for one of our companies in the future.
Yeah, really quickly, I think Sydney and Thomas touched on everything. The only thing I would have to add on my end is that with the youth I work with in my community, it's showing them that this is achievable, it's attainable. I know that a lot of our young people in our First Nations, they see some of these jobs and or some of these positions. Maybe they look at Thomas or me or Sydney and they're like, oh, wow, those guys are on a different level and you know, all these things, and it's just unattainable to them. They can't see themselves in our roles. And it's just breaking it down and bringing it down to them and saying, here's how I got there. Here's how we did it. This, you know, here's the journey. You know, I'm just a person. I remember being 18, you'd look at somebody that's 30 and you'd be like, oh, that's an old adult. Like, how does he do it all? And I just turned 30 this year and I still feel like I'm 18 some days. So I think that's a major part of it.
You know, that's exactly how I feel, because I'm only 20 years old and I was landed this economic development officer job. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I'm so young, like what? No one my age does this, but I really like your ideas. I'm definitely taking some notes, and like that's something that's one of like the main focus that I want to do is to include youth, engage with youth. You know, every aspect that's going to be happening within from now to 15 years. You know, like I want youth in every sector of the development of Natoaganeg, the largest urban reserve in Canada. But I really like your points. Definitely some new ones added to my list, and thank you for sharing.
Emily, just to add, one of the things that you should consider for your DevCorp, and one of the things that was done here for me, when we started FHQ Developments, I came in as a youth director. On the board of directors. So, you know, I owe a lot of kudos to our chair, Tribal Chief Edmund Delgard. He fought to have me on the board here when we started off as a development corporation. And it wasn't for favoritism or anything like that. It was more to make sure that there was a youth perspective brought into the organization and that there was some capacity building happening. And so, you know, we're going to continue with that. And so we haven't filled my position yet, but we are kind of working on that as a board, but we will be filling, you know, a board position with a youth from one of our nations eventually in the organization here in the next little while. So I think that's really important for our youth to have and to be respected, to sit on boards. And to gain the necessary capacity to think like a board member, because that's where some of my greatest learning has come from, was serving on boards and you know, learning about strategy and strategy development. And you know, I learned a lot of really key characteristics and knowledge from the other fantastic board members that we have. So think about that as you develop development corporations.
That's really good. Like even in all aspect of a corporation too, right? Even like with the board of directors, like when they're having a meetings to include a youth there so that they could gain that experience too. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And so with that, we are getting close to the end. I can definitely attest to the youth board member. I thank Cando for giving me that opportunity, and I can see the importance of it now. And we'll go to Leah and then Breezy, and then we'll kind of close it up quickly. But Leah, we have time for a quick last couple of questions. And so far, panelists, maybe if just one or two of you can answer these last couple, and then we'll kind of close it up for the day. So Leah.
Great, thank you. I will try to speed this up as fast as I can. Hi everyone, my name is Leah. I'm currently residing in Ottawa, and I work for the National Association of Friendship Centers. I thought this would be a great platform to ask some questions. I'm working on an urban Indigenous youth leadership project, and within it is curriculum, and then there will be a symposium near the end. Anyways, I just got an extension. So that is quite a relief for me, but I was kind of hoping to ask if there was any feedback or considerations that you might have to give me, because I didn't grow up in the city. I grew up in the bush, and I also wasn't raised with my culture. So, you know, I've only got experience over the last couple of years as with my culture as well as with youth programs. And so it being an urban Indigenous youth leadership curriculum that I'm currently working on, do you have any, I guess, major considerations for what I should ensure that's in the curriculum to actually make it impactful to the youth? Any feedback would help. I started during COVID, so the connection and the engagement and relationship building has been very lacking. And so it'd be great to hear from you.
Leah, I guess one suggestion I would have, and we do this on for our ECDev division, is you really need to create partnerships with different organizations that are within your territory. So whether that be the ECDev organization that's local, or even looking at corporate, and if you have somebody in the community that can help, you know, make those introductions, or even, you know, utilize LinkedIn. And you know, I use LinkedIn quite a bit. I mean, I connect with people locally and provincially. I have, you know, a specific group of people that I'm able to go to and gain access to. So when you're making those connections, you know, make sure, you know, once you have that connection, you know, send them a message, explain what it is that you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish, and you know, do your pitch on what it is that you are trying to accomplish. Like, what is the why of why you've created that program, and you know, what are the goals that you have, and so that organization can you know, align themselves to helping you achieve some of those goals, because I'm sure a lot of those organizations are considering what Indigenous engagement looks like within their organization, and this might be a quick, for me, I would see this as a quick and easy win to working on Indigenous engagement. So think about that, I guess.
Thank you.
Perfect. And so the next is, we'll close it off with Breezy. One last question. And as Dustin said, I'm sure all of our panelists as well, if you do have questions and that we couldn't get to due to time constraints, of course, just feel free to message them with the contact information they put in the chat, and hopefully they can answer there. But for Breezy?
Yeah, that's awesome. So I was going to mention, thank you so much, everyone. I was going to mention too, yeah, that the LinkedIn's are in the chat there. So if you want to go ahead and contact directly to get some more questions answered. Just wanted to end it on kind of a fun little note, just asking our panelists, if you were a book, what would the title of your named book be?
Well, the one thing I'm focused on is Indigenous economic impact.
Don't be afraid. Mine's like I'm a hot mess. That is being probably mine. This is
That's a tough question, right? Because you have all these different facets of your life. What's your book going to be called? Geez, I would call mine. So many things come to mind. This is a fun one. I would say probably The Politician Who Hates Politics and Never Wanted to Be a Politician by Dustin Ross Fiddler.
A Holistic Way Woman Making Her Way in Mi'kmaq Territory.
I like it. What a way to end this Cando Youth Connect. I think that mine would be I Need a Nap. And with that, I think that we're going to start to slowly close this up. And so I just want to say a last thank you to every single one of our attendees. We have these Cando Youth Connects every month. And so please don't be scared to attend them. We'll definitely are learning as we go, and we'll leave more time for conversations in the future for sure, because I can see how important that is. But thank you so much to all of our speakers too. Dustin, Sydney, Thomas. It was truly a pleasure having you in our presence today. And to everybody who came, I can see some thank yous in the chat there too. And
Aubrey.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I just wanted to say, thanks for having me, and it's a great opportunity. I'm always down to connect and talk and meet people. Congrats to Thomas, by the way. He just got a Changemaker Award, basically being one of the best top innovators in Canada. So he's doing some great work. Follow his work, you guys. He's on LinkedIn too. So, and Sydney, it was great meeting you. I hope to keep in touch through LinkedIn as well, and wish you all a good day and safe travels, and stay safe out there. Bye.
Amazing. Yes. Thank you, Dustin. But yeah, with that, thank you to our speakers, to our attendees, to Cando for giving us this platform to communicate on. Huge thank yous, great reflections on the day. And please do not forget to fill out your evaluation, because with your evaluation, you can win an Indigenous box, a Nietzsche Gear sweater, $100 Nietzsche Gear gift card, $100 She Native gift card, or $100 Cheekbone Beauty gift card. That made me run out of breath. That's how many different vendors we have. So do not forget to fill out your evaluation. And with that, thank you so much. You're all part of the Cando family, and I can't wait to see you all next month.
All right, thanks everyone. Take care.
Yep, thank you. Bye.